Hi, this is Mike from the Run Testers, and this is our comparison video with the Garmin Fenix 6 and the Garmin Fenix 7. Before we take a closer look at the differences between the Fenix 7 and the Fenix 6, here's a rundown of the key things to know about how these devices differ and match up with each other on the running front. All of the Fenix 7 models are available in the same size as the 6, which means your choice of 42mm, 47mm and 51mm case sizes. Where things start to differ is with the bezel options and the addition of a new power sapphire lens option available on some Fenix 7 series models to offer solar power and offer more durable protection for that display. All Fenix 7 models include touchscreen functionality, which you don't get on the Fenix Series 6, but they do match the screen sizes of the 6 series and use the same transfective display technology. One other design highlight that separates the 7 from the 6 is that you get a built-in LED flashlight, but only on the 7X. In terms of sensors, the 7 offers everything you get on the 6, but also adds multi-band GNSS support to improve outdoor tracking. It does offer Garmin's latest Gen 4 Elevate heart rate sensor technology as well. In terms of battery life, we've dished out the numbers to show you that the new Fenix promises bigger battery numbers across the board. Garmin's Power Manager is present on both watches to help you pay closer attention to the features hogging the battery. Turning to those running features, and you're getting the same running profiles, performance metrics like VO2 max and training insights. There's Pace Pro, Garmin Coach and Climb Pro across the board, and you're also getting daily suggested workouts and a recovery advisor. The Fenix 7 additionally gets a new real-time stamina feature to help manage and track exertion, and an improved race predictor to offer trends along with predicted times. There's full colour mapping on both watches and the same navigation features, but the 7 adds multi-continent topo maps, either preloaded or downloadable. There's a new up ahead feature to help see POI checkpoints up ahead of you, and the 7 will also let you make use of the touchscreen to look through maps. If you care about smartwatch features, both watches offer the same payment, music and notifications board and have access to the Garmin Connect IQ store. Both do miss out on the new voice features introduced on the Garmin Venue 2 Plus. Okay, the first thing we have to talk about is design and what these watches are like to live with. So, Nick, what is your experience of using the 6 and the 7 and how they kind of match up?
I feel like in terms of design, they really are the same. You've got all these different materials in the range, and obviously I tend to wear a Fenix 6 Pro with the titanium version. This is a Fenix 7X, so it's, it is a bit bigger. But I think otherwise, it really does look and feel the same to me. Obviously, the solar now comes pretty much across the range in the 7 and a bit more standard. There is some models without it, but Garmin is putting solar on more of the watches, but I don't think in terms of design that's much difference, apart from the touchscreen, obviously, which is a nice addition to the Fenix 7. I'd like it's a responsive, good touchscreen. I use it actually quite often to go through my widgets and delete notifications. It's not exactly a deal breaker, but I think it's something that Garmin has implemented well. I think it is a useful touchscreen, and there are times when it is more enjoyable to use that than the buttons, as opposed to touchscreens of some other sports watches, which I never use because they're so much worse than the buttons. But yeah, pretty good touchscreen.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the experience really in terms of sort of wearability and all of those things in the design, there's not too much to discern difference-wise. I feel like it feels the same, sleeping with it, running with it, all of those things, obviously the Fenix 6 versus 7X is a bit lighter, a bit whatever, but the touchscreen, yeah, good addition. I don't really personally use it. It's not really something that I would sort of herald as an amazing new feature. Really, I'm quite happy with the buttons controls. It's nice in some conditions, but overall, I feel like it's a very similar experience.
Yeah, so I think when I've spent a lot of time with the Fenix 6 and the 6 Pro, so that's kind of where my kind of comparison comes from it. And I think you're getting things that similar straps, the kind of quick release kind of straps in terms of the bezels, in terms of the resolution on the screen. It all feels very similar. The touchscreen feels like a big thing here. You've got that kind of power sapphire glass and lens on the newer Fenix, which essentially is giving you something a bit more durable, but it's not something that I've kind of noticed a difference in terms of my experience of using the watches. Ultimately, I think if you're looking at design, and that's a kind of key driver between these two, picking between these two watches, I think they're very similar in terms of that kind of experience. I think the touchscreen is the main thing, but I don't think that's going to be huge amount for people, for everyone, essentially, in terms of a feature.
Yeah, definitely. I think the screen's the same as well. I haven't noticed any difference in brightness or dullness, really.
Yeah. I don't think, if we get into the world where the Fenix 6 range comes down in price, I don't think that you're going to want to spend another £200, £150. I don't think personally for a touchscreen. No, I don't think it makes that much difference. But
no, yeah, I agree. I'd agree.
Okay, so we're going to get into kind of some run testing stuff. So in terms of the GPS accuracy, what are we getting here in terms of that performance, Nick?
So the new watch has a couple of new modes, basically compared to the old Garmin's. You've got the multi-GNS mode, which is GNSS mode, which basically all the satellite systems at once. And then there's an extreme version, which is the multi-band mode, which uses 2 different bands at the same time. That's only available on the Sapphire Solar Fenixes in the new range, so not the base 7 model. But I've used the new one in just multi-GNS mode and the multi-band mode, and it's really good. It's very accurate. I'd say the Fenix 6 Pro has been my main watch for long stretches in the past few years, and one reason I kind of went away from it at times is that it is a bit flaky on GPS. It would kind of have extra wobbles and catch little bits and like have a fast lap and then a slow lap to kind of even out, even if the overall distance was right at the end. Like in between, trying to pace by lap pace, which is how I pace, sometimes is a bit more challenging. And I've just seen none of those problems in the 7X. Like you can see on GPS trails, it's just, this is the side of the road you're on, it's dead level. Like it's not always perfect at all. It's still a GPS watch. There's still going to be flaws. Like I've got some of Kieran's tracks where he ends up in the Thames and things like that, and that's never going to go away. But if you don't like the Fenix 6 because of the accuracy, which is an experience I had at times, it is a slight upgrade to get the 7, even if you're just getting it in multi-GNS mode, even without the multiband.
And you're not going to pay for that extra performance, right? In terms of battery life, there's not a trade-off because the battery life is bigger.
Battery life's bigger, so even if you went straight to the multi-band, you're getting loads of life on this watch. And if you use just the multi-GNS or GPS only, it's going to be really, really long-lasting.
Yeah, I mean, I threw my Fenix 6 Pro back on to kind of do some kind of runs with them, and I found generally the performance is still pretty strong. I had a pretty good experience when I've been using the 6 Pro and the 6, so for me, I didn't see a huge difference, but I can see the benefit for some people that, you know, if you want that extra bit of accuracy on that front, you are going to get that on the 7 essentially. So that might be a reason to kind of go for that instead.
And one of the areas I think there's another feature that's driven by that GPS, which is not coming to the Fenix 6 yet, as far as we know, which is the upper head, which is this, you know, you can plug in a route with marked waypoints and see, or give you how much distance there is to that next waypoint, an aid station, for example, on an Ultra, and kind of estimated kind of arrival times, all that kind of stuff. And that's going to be hopefully powered by this kind of improved GPS as well to make it sort of bang on when you're racing, which will be a difference.
Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, generally I think the GPS is an upgrade, whether it's, you know, for someone who's obsessive like me, it might be one of the big reasons to upgrade. But I would say if you're looking within the Fenix range, the multiband is good, but the multi-GNS is so good, I don't think it's necessarily something you need to pay for.
Okay, and let's talk about heart rate monitoring performance. So, Kieran, how did you get on in terms of, or how, you know, in comparison to what your time with the Fenix 6 range and how it kind of compares with the 7?
I mean, I think the comparisons are pretty close, really. It's sort of similar performance, optical heart rate. For me, it doesn't really matter what watch I put on, it bounces around, it can be a little bit flaky, particularly when you go into those kind of interval sessions. And it can often they read sort of high max heart rate compared to a chest strap. I don't think there's too much to choose between the performance of these two on that front.
No, yeah, I think, like, very same experience. The Fenix was sometimes good, but was bad enough that you need a chest strap to make the most out of the heart rate tracking feature, and all the features linked to it, like, you know, training load and body battery. Yeah, and,
you know, essentially you are maybe getting a later generation version of Garmin's Elevate kind of technology, but ultimately I think the experience that I found using the two watches is that the optical sensor works in a similar way in terms of the data you're getting and the reliability of them. So yeah, ultimately you want to still pair up a chest strap, and you can do that, you know, with both of them, so you've got that to get that extra accuracy. Now, obviously, a lot of people buy a Fenix for the mapping features. Now, how do the mapping features kind of work in comparison to the Fenix 6 with the Fenix 7?
Big difference for me is just the ability to use that touchscreen to kind of sort of scroll around on the maps a bit. You can't pinch and zoom, which is a shame. That was my instinct, was to go, oh, pinch and zoom, pinch and zoom. It's not there. The other thing I think is interesting, you have to have touch on during a run. When that's under a jacket, there's an opportunity for there to be sort of road touches. I'd like it to be able to sort of just have it on when the map screen is on. I know, Nick, you sort of mentioned you sort of tend to just jump for the buttons anyway when you're using the map, so it doesn't make a difference for you. But
yeah, like, I think what you meant, so like, I wouldn't want to risk any road touches. I think if pinch and zoom was there, I'd be happy to have. I'd be going touchscreen, and But in the summer, I'll probably turn touchscreen on runs because there's no chance of interference, and then it just gives you another option to move around the map. But I find with basically on a run, if you have a swipe of the finger, it's a good chance you're going to go, oh my god, I'm now too far away, and you're stopping trying to get it back. Whereas with the little very granular bit by bit movement with the buttons, it's a bit, because it's already on the screen. I think I'd probably still use the buttons, but that's a nice little touch. But yeah, the mapping experience is tremendous on both. Obviously, base Fenix 6 models don't have it, only the Pro versions. So some very minor differences on the 7 range in terms of whether it's preloaded or you have to download them yourself. But if you're buying a watch with mapping features, you're getting fantastic mapping on both, if you have the maps on there.
Yeah, I would go. Just very detailed mapping. Some of the best kind of mapping support you will find on watches, and the Fenix is kind of probably the best that you're going to get there on both of these watches, I think. Now we're going to kind of dig into some of the kind of software kind of running specific features. Now one of the key ones that kind of separates these two watches is stamina, which we don't know is going to come to the Fenix 6 series yet. We have no idea yet. It may do, maybe it won't. How is that a big feature to separate these two, and or a reason to go for the 7 over the 6, Nick?
Well, the stamina feature for me is Garmin really having a big reach and trying to produce something fairly magical in terms of like a feature that will tell you how much kind of stamina you have left on a run or a race and can really help you manage your effort. It's an incredibly hard thing to do, and in my experience so far, I don't think it's something I could trust in a race. Like I used it for a cross-country race and saw my stamina drop very quickly in the first K and then kind of come back even as I got tired towards the end, which could be the fact I was racing not on the road, which makes it harder for it to judge effort. But I think it's an interesting idea. It's a lovely idea. I wouldn't be using that as a separating feature for these watches. If you're buying the 7 in the hope you can use stamina for every race, I think you're going to find it, at the moment, hard to trust for that level of, for what it's aiming for, which is incredible. It's very hard to trust anything to do that, apart from your own feelings.
Yeah, I mean, stamina by its definition is both physical and mental, right? There's two sides to it. So there's the physiology of it, and then there's actually what you do when you're in the bin and you've got to find something extra. So for a lot of times when I think this comes into play, sort of half marathons, maybe longer ultras, there's a real argument that people, if you read about ultras, people kind of, it's almost the whole point is that you go to the point where you feel like you've got no stamina left, and then somewhere you reach beyond and find some more. And I'd love to know, I haven't tested it yet, but I want to see what this watch does, both of them in stamina mode, up against something like that, where you've sort of emptied it, basically, and you come back. I do feel like there's a potential for stamina to be a little bit of a negative kind of enforcer, where you see a number drop very quickly, and then you think, oh God, what am I going to do in this run? It's going to go badly, and then it can kind of reinforce itself. I don't think it necessarily does anything more than you can get from other existing metrics like pace, heart rate, and power, even on some watches. And I'm just not sure how it's calculated and how trustworthy the information will be put into it. So I wouldn't be putting that up as something to buy the Fenix 7 over the 6.
And I get the sense, otherwise we don't, although we don't know, I get the sense, you've got everything in the Fenix 6 for the stamina mode to kind of be introduced to it. It doesn't feel like there's something new there that it's leaning on to kind of generate that information. So there's every chance that stamina will be there. But for me, things like pacing strategies, which you do get on both these watches, I think that's a stronger feature in terms of what it's helping you to do in terms of strategizing for races and things like that. But yeah, for me, it wouldn't be a feature that would make me jump to the kind of newer watch, because I don't think it's quite there yet in terms of the feature.
Yeah, I think it's actually the same with the new kind of visual race predictions you're getting on the watch, which give you a trend over time in terms of the race prediction they give you, which is useful, but it's useful, but yeah, it's not a deal breaker. But those, we agree on that. Like, I think having a trend in the race prediction is more useful than a hard number, which is often wrong on these race predictions. But it's a nice little addition, but not a deal breaker probably. Yeah.
Okay, not a software running focus feature, but
a
difference between the two watches, between the two Fenix watches, is, Nick.
Oh, it's so bright, so bright.
I've blinded them.
Is this flashlight or torch option that you're going to get on the Fenix 7X.
Only the big one, yeah.
Which clearly is going to be the biggest reason to go for it, right?
I think it's one of my favourite little gimmicky things of all time. It's proper LED torch. It's in dark conditions, it's reasonably bright. I've used it on the run in the dark, where just around town when I'm going to be in the light mostly. But on a dark section, you hold it like a torch while running. It shows a bit of the road. It would never be your main light on the run, but you'd have to have a headlamp. But it would be it's quite useful for like getting around the house in the dark and not waking up kids and when you're camping. But it is certainly not a reason to decide which watch you're getting.
The only other, it does have a red light on it as well, and I think that potentially for safety is a good place to have, on a moving, on your limbs, moving arm with the red light flashing, that's potentially has some safety ramifications, but yeah.
And it's I don't know. Well, I thought it was just a screen light. You get lots of watches where you use the screen as a torch. So when I turned it on, it was a proper light. I was genuinely thrilled, like a child at Christmas. But I can see that at the end of the day that it's not really a deal breaker, but it is fun.
Okay, so I think this is going to be a big one when you're looking at the Fenix 6 and the Fenix 7 battery life and what kind of numbers you're getting in between charges. So, Nick, from your experience, how do these two hold up? What kind of battery performance did you get, or how did it work for you?
Well, I think there's been an upgrade across the range here. Garmin's definitely taken some of the lessons the tech and stuff from the Enduro, and they've made the Fenix pretty Enduro-esque, it's fair to say. Certainly in the 7X version we've been testing, like in max, multi-band GPS mode, running every day pretty much. I've easily got to kind of 3 weeks of life of this, You take down the GPS mode a little bit, you use some of the power manager features, you're easily getting over a month. Whereas the Fenix 6 Pro I used, and would use power manager quite strongly with this, like on the night I'd have a special mode to make sure I'm using no battery basically at night with my Fenix 6. I will still have to charge it probably every 7 to 10 days. I think on the equivalent Fenix now, even without solar, you're going to see longer lasting whilst getting better performance in terms of GPS. So I think this is a clear upgrade.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I just going to say I totally agree. I think this is the one thing that would draw me to go up the chain a little. It's worth, for that kind of extended battery life that you can now kind of get a month's worth of activity out of the Fenix 7. I would pay for that. Only charge the watch once in a month is a happy thing.
Yeah, I almost feel like you're getting an extra week's worth of kind of life out of the Fenix 7 over the Fenix 6 in terms of kind of day to day and kind of tracking and things like that. So it's definitely clear kind of improvement in terms of getting you closer to a kind of a month's worth without charging it. And they're using the same charging setups as well that Garmin kind of unified across all their watches. So for me, the battery life, I think the Fenix, that would be a reason to go for the Fenix 7. You are getting closer to what I kind of definitely experienced with the Garmin Enduro, which I think really kind of impressed me and is up there some of the best in terms of battery life performances. So yeah, battery life for me really good on the Fenix 7. I think the 6 is good, but it definitely, I think, like Nick has said, you need to kind of look at those kind of power management features to get the most out of that battery performance. Whereas I think with the Fenix 7, you probably don't have to do that as much to kind of get that longer kind of lasting performance.
I think also what's interesting on the new range, Garmin seems to be getting to grips with this solar technology in terms of numbers they promise. And we haven't been able to test it because it's been miserable winter here. But when we tested the Fenix 6 Pro solar, we were looking at maybe an extra day of life from the solar. But now they promise on the X 8 extra days if you're using solar mode. Things like that. The jumps are big. So and that's going to be big on those big event races in America, where it's always, in my mind, America is always sunny. Everyone is always running ultra marathons on rocky courses with clear view of the sun. And,
beautiful blue skies.
That's America, and that is America. So that solar is going to be very useful.
Lucky Americans.
For endless sun.
Okay, so it's verdict time, boys. If you had to pick between the Fenix 6 or the Fenix 7, which one would you go for? Kieran?
Well, it's obviously the first thing I'm going to take into consideration is what I'm going to pay for it. If I'm going to get a Fenix 6 for much cheaper, there is a price basically, Mike, which I'm not willing to pay for a little bit of extra battery life. I'm a cheapskate. So
about the torch,
and the torch, well, that's money no object, isn't it? That is like dream stuff, But I think, if I can get enough savings on a cheaper Fenix 6, I would forgo the longer battery life for that. I'm talking like £150, £200. But money no object. I think the battery life extensions, the extra sort of touch screen, I think, I would go Fenix. One of the Fenix 7 range, I'd probably go sort of slightly lower down the chain than the 7X, which we've been testing. But I think there's definitely improvements here that make it worthwhile upgrading.
How about you, Nick?
Yeah, the big one for me is that the battery life is lovely, but I do think the GPS is significantly better on the new range, and that's just in the multi-GNS mode, not even needing the multi-band. So that means even the base Fenix model, I think, will be an upgrade. I have had frustrations with the Fenix 6 Pro. So I've happily used it as my main watch for my biggest marathon training and stuff like that, but at the same time, there's been times I've gone, you know what, on certain loops, I know it's going to mess up so many times that I need to wear a different watch. So that, for me, would be quite a compelling reason to upgrade, even if the difference is... certainly the difference is quite small in terms of price if you're looking at RRPs. Now the Fenix 6 last year around Black Friday dropped as low, up to £400, things less than that. Now that makes things tricky because a lot of the stuff I love about the Fenix is the same. The maps I love, the design I really like, the feature-rich things like Climb Pro and all the different workout screens are all the same, but the accuracy is a big one. That would really make me think hard about upgrading even for a big price. But like Kieran, I would be shopping down the Fenix 7 range. I don't think you need to go for the Torch. That is a wrench to lose the Torch. But yeah. So yeah, but how about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think the thing for me is the battery life is a big driving force for me in terms of wanting to get an upgrade. I feel like design wise they feel very similar. You're getting the same kind of in terms of the screens, in terms of the features that you're getting, in terms of the analysis, in terms of mapping, and everything there feels very similar in terms of the experience that I've got. But that battery life would be a thing for me. I loved it on the Enduro, and I feel like you're getting closer to that on a Fenix. And if that is something driving you in terms of how you would decide, I think the Fenix 7 is the clear kind of winner from that department. But again, yeah, I would probably be looking a bit cheaper. I think like if you could pick up a 6 Pro Solar at a reasonable price, I think that's still a really strong option, and I've had a really good experience with that watch. But if you want that extra battery life, that's what you're going to get from the 7, the main thing really. And I'm hoping that maybe some of those software kind of centric features you're getting on the 7 should be able to work its way onto the 6 as well. We don't know if that's going to happen, but I feel like just historically how things have worked, that we'll probably see some of those things kind of rolled out at some point, I think.
Yeah, I think it's pretty in between. I think Garmin has done enough here to make a real definitive statement. This is a new watch, a better watch. We've improved some very core things for people like battery life, GPS, but it's not. They've changed stuff so dramatically that it's a completely different watch. So yeah, I think it's going to be an individual decision, but for me, GPS might swing it, and battery life's obviously big for you guys.
Okay, so there you have it. That is our comparison video on the Fenix 7 against the Fenix 6. Now, if you've got any questions for us, let us know in the comments. We've got plenty more Garmin videos on the channel at the moment, so definitely go and check those out. As always, like and subscribe. Hit that little bell to find out about our latest videos. And yeah, we'll see you for the next Run Testers video.